Boom, cause, boom, cause.
Guna fam, what's good? As you can see, I got Nqobile in the house. We're back for a match day review. A few days late, I think we needed to calm down there after the 2 loss to Tottenham. Yeah, man, let's just get straight into it. How did you feel? How do you still feel about the game and the performance, overall?
Mm. Look, I'm very, very disappointed with the result. Um, I think obviously I think with the result and obviously some of the choices that our manager made, obviously you're never too happy to lose to Spurs. And I think it was one of those games where for the first time in a very long time, we went in as an underdog against
Mm.
Spurs. And I think the way we played for me didn't really we didn't do we did neither thing well. So if knowing how Jose Mourinho sets up his side, if for me Arteta would have I think been a lot more pragmatic and said, look, today I'm parking the bus. I'm going with five at the back. I'm
Mm.
gonna try and nullify Son because at Tottenham you just have to nullify two of their players. So say, okay, look, I'm putting either an extra central midfielder that's literally all he's going to do is try and fire and look where Harry Kane is and try mark him with one of the defenders sweep him up, or put in an extra centre back to take care of that, um, and make sure that there's the other two centre mids, then giving them freedom. So not centre mids, the other two centre backs to give them freedom to go and pick up Son when he makes his runs past either wing backs, depending on which side of the field they're playing, be it on the left or on the right. Um, but we didn't do that, right? So, or sorry, the other alternative would be, okay, I'm going with a highly energetic team. I'm going to I know I'm going to dominate position. I'm going to press the living daylights out of these guys, try to win the ball high up, um, and therefore then mitigate my lack of creativity by shortening the distance we have to travel to goal and moving the ball quickly to not give the defenders time to adapt. Oh, sorry, time to get back into positions to
No,
block
no.
that.
I mean, yeah.
Because we knew that Jose Mourinho, and for me, we know what Mourinho. Mourinho, all the big games he's played, even the last time we played them, he sits back,
Yeah,
gives
let
you the
us do the
ball,
work. Yeah.
lets you do the work, and then he knows that I've got two players who are in the form of their lives. All they need to do is give them, when we've got the ball, give the ball to them. They'll make the magic happen,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like how we played in the FA Cup towards the back end of the season. And I think that knowing the type of game that knowing the kind of situation we're in, and maybe Arteta was naive in terms that he went for the win here at all costs, but didn't really set up for it. For me, I think he should have been a bit more pragmatic. Said, look, if I walk away here with a draw, I'm more than happy. If I get a win, bonus points. But if I need
Yeah.
to set up today, not lose, rather than set up to win, we're not playing Burnley or Wolves at home. We're playing Tottenham away, who, as hard as it is for me, they're a much better side, and we need to treat them like you're playing a Liverpool away when
Yeah.
you're playing them, like you're playing a Man City away, and set up accordingly. Bring in Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who we know is a good man marker and can nullify certain threats in your team. If you want him to nullify Son, say, okay, here you go. Bring him
Mm.
on. You will be man. You are tasked to mark Son today. We're not gonna stick a man on. We're not gonna stick a man on Harry Kane. We're just gonna stick a man on Son, and make sure that these guys behind you are then gonna cover you. We don't expect you to get forward much and to expose that we're going to sit back and just provide cover to the defense, right? Um, but then, okay, obviously we went to the formation we went with, but then in that formation, we played a guy, and look, a lot of us have been calling for Party to start a fit. So look, I think it was kind of a catch-22 situation with that. I still feel that he was resting too early, and looking at the schedule we've got, with the Christmas schedule coming up, I would have rather have waited for another week make sure that Partey's 100% fit before
Yeah.
playing him. But look, it was one of those where I think Arteta obviously felt it was a do or die match, and he felt he had to go for the win, so he needed to put all his eggs in this basket and play Partey, who is our best player, probably barring Gabriel, in our side. But then with that, then if you go with that, then for me you then need to have a very, very mobile midfielder next to him, and because if they're going to be pressing and counter pressing then together. And then for you to achieve that, then you need to be able to have a guy who's able to recover if Tottenham do beat the press. And for me, a guy like Xhaka doesn't really have those attributes to be able to
Yeah.
to be able to firstly get to the press. And if he does get to the press, if he gets beaten, he doesn't have the ability to recover and make a recovering tackle. So for me, a guy like El Neni probably would have been better, or even a Danny. I know Danny's not really the most best defender, but he's better than Xhaka for me in terms of his ability to recover. But I would have probably gone with an El Neni, and a Danny Ceballos probably combo, given that obviously Partey was, given Partey was fit. But obviously if Partey was 100% fit, which we all know now with the benefits of hindsight he wasn't, I would have then gone with an El Neni Partey combination, and then that for me would have given us the legs, at least in midfield. And then I know I'm comfortable with Partey or El Neni whenever Harry Kane drops deep. I know that El Neni has got the tactical nous to track him into these deep positions and not concede fouls. So either win the ball, or if he doesn't win the ball, he's able to then recover and be able to nullify the threat. When Kane does lay the ball off, he's able to recover and get back in time to cover the running players that are coming in from deep. And for me, I think that was Arteta's problem, is that he did none of the other. He to me, it seemed like he wanted to press, but the personnel he played didn't really allow for a pressing
Mm.
and
like
game.
a quick movement off as well. Like, once you get the
quick
ball.
movements, and once you get the ball, to quickly move it and to capitalize on that. And I think that he kind of shot himself in the foot with that. Look, I wouldn't have gone with the high press. I would have gone with the sitting back, 5 at the back, 3 centre backs, have Kieran Tierney as a
Tottenham didn't look comfortable in possession. So if
but
you
no, Tottenham have never been.
so if you allow them to
comfortable in
try
position.
control the game, you could snatch it at any time.
But it's one of those where, for me, you go in to snatch it. You don't go in there to say that, because we know we don't have the quality. None of the teams that have given us possession this season have been uncomfortable doing that. So if you look at Wolves, they weren't uncomfortable. Look at Leicester, they knew. So we know that we are not potent enough to rely on our ability, our possession, to unlock. So basically, we know that we are not good enough to outscore a counter-attacking team. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So for me, then, with that in mind, especially a team like Tottenham, which we all know their strength, I would rather sit back, make the game as boring as possible, and if you walk away with the point, so be it. If we get the win, all the better, But for me, the primary, and Tottenham really didn't threaten. And that if you actually look at it, they literally had 2 chances, 2 goals done. And both of those goals for me were preventable if we had gone in with a more pragmatic approach.
Yeah, talk you on the goals, and also, so do you think that's where we lost the game, like that approach into the midfield going forward, or was it just the lack of creativity? So that was it for you?
Yeah, so we all know the creativity issue that we've got, right, in our team. And I think we neither solve for it, because putting Xhaka in your midfield doesn't solve for your creativity problems. He moves the ball way too slowly. He's one-footed. He gets caught in possession. And he's, by nature, a very conservative user of the ball, right? So for me, the only way you can, because we don't have guys so the only way you can solve for the creativity issue for me is that you need to have guys who can pick up the ball and drive with it, because we don't have guys who are good passers and movers, of the ball. So your midfield needs to have workers and runners. And guys who are able to drive, guys who are able to pull people out of position. And obviously then obviously you can then have guys who don't really play the intricate pass, but actually play the pass and are comfortable with then moving into the position. And if it doesn't work out, they're comfortable to get back. They're willing to
did
take
that
more of those
well in the
risks.
half before he got injured. Well, the first few minutes.
Yeah, he did exactly, but he was the only one doing it. And then
Yeah.
when he went off, we literally had two similar players in Xhaka and El Neni. Sorry, not Xhaka. In Xhaka and Ceballos, who like controlling the ball, getting the ball from deep, and playing it. Especially Xhaka. And El Neni will take a risk and try to dribble now and then or play off more from. But Xhaka likes to sit from deep in that quarterback position with everyone in front of him and playing the ball into safe channels, right? And then what ended up happening is you literally had four players who Tottenham didn't even bother marking. So the four players being our two centre backs and our two midfields, who Tottenham were willing to let have the ball, knowing that they would crowd us out at the back and knowing that these guys are not going to engage them, except for Gabriel did it a couple of times. Where actually, when he actually did get the ball and engage them, he was able to beat players, and then there was at least something happening,
He was
even though
trying
obviously the final
towards the end. Yeah.
wasn't good in the end, and it's expected. He's a defender, but that for me then creates situations where the defense now has to start shifting and being after. But if you're just gonna play the ball to the channel, whipping across, and we are outnumbered 5-2 in the box, we're not gonna achieve much.
So going into
with
what
that.
you said with the crossing, that's my next point to you. Is like it seems to not be working, well, not even effective. And is this all we have, or what more do we need to do? Because it looks like that's his go-to kind of thing. And if that's going to be it, we're going
Yeah,
to figure it out
and look,
quite
and
easy.
exactly we will. And look, I think at the end of the day, right, as much as yes, that crossing is one of those. It's a very low percentage tactic for us. But if you actually also look at it, our players did let us down in that aspect because they did actually also get quite good chances.
Yeah.
Where Lacazette, look,
Good
Loris
position.
made a great two good saves, I reckon. Or the other one was comfortable, one was good. Aubameyang missed a sitter again with his head. So I don't know whether maybe our players are doing it well in training. They're able to finish off those chances, therefore giving Arteta the comfort that they will be able to do it in the game.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
whether Arteta is seeing something we're not seeing, and playing those players, knowing that we actually don't have guys who are suited to that type of player, and they're not comfortable with converting those chances. And stats have shown that our guys are not. Historically, we've seen that we don't usually score a lot of headed goals. I think Aubameyang and Lacazette have scored 9. I think I saw a stat it was like 9 between the two of them, or something stupid like that. Recently in the past year, whatever, or since I think Aubameyang arrived, or something like that. So yeah, I actually don't know whether Arteta saw something in training, and these guys were able to do it in training, but not able to replicate in the game, or whether he's clutching at straws. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
he's out of ideas. That's the one. I don't know. I
It just
can't.
feels
I
it's
haven't
so
seen.
hard to pick a man, that's what it's just feeling like now when they try to do that all the time. Because these guys are just flooding the box and covering our guys.
Exactly.
One in good
But
position.
the thing is that it's a tactic we've always used in the past, but it's always been that we get it to the byline, we play a low cross, so we try to get our wing backs into highly advanced positions, so like into the box, or near the box, and when they play a cross, they'll usually play a low cross either into the 6-yard box or back to the penalty spot for someone to finish off, right?
Yeah.
But with some of those, what I've seen is that a lot of those crosses, Bellerin's, when he does get into those positions, his quality has been poor. So the crosses have been either getting cut out, or they've just been, actually, most of them, they've either been getting cut out or overhit. So it's also, another thing is that also, I think the quality that we've been getting from our wing backs and our wingers when we do get into good positions has been poor. Especially Bellerin. Bellerin's quality delivery has been atrocious. With Tierney, I'd probably say that some of the crosses he puts in are good, but I think the guys just haven't been attacking them well enough. And sometimes when they do find their man, the guys are not capitalizing on those.
But
So
should
it's
we not
something
have
we
a
need to
taller striker or something in that aspect? So even
look.
when
Aubameyang is not a midget. He's not short, right? He's not a short. Look, he's no Olivier Giroud, but
yeah,
I've seen him get on the end of good chances and spurn them also with his head. So it's one of those maybe where you'd say, look, as much as he's got a semi-tallish frame, look, but he's not comfortable, I think, in
commanding in
heading
the
the ball.
air,
And
he
he's
isn't. Yeah.
not as commanding in the air as some of the other, as like, let's say, your Gabriel, your Rob
Just
Holding,
like the
let's say,
first
would
thing I
be.
think is like Peter Crouch, just like hanging in the air in the back post,
Yeah.
slotting the whole like
Yeah.
taking those chances, and it works.
Yeah. And
I
also,
need to have the personnel, as you
yeah,
said.
but also you look at all three of us, right? And they're not really the best headers of ball. Like Nketiah is also not the greatest.
Mm,
They've got the stature, right? As I'm saying, look, they're not boom. They're not like your Alexander Mitroviches, but
yeah,
they're still tall enough. It's not like you're bombing the ball to Sergio Aguero, in
no.
the box there. These guys are sizable characters. Yes, they're not the tallest by far, but you would
And
expect them to
Aubameyang is quite
win.
athletic, so he can get up
Exactly,
quite.
you'd expect them to win some of those challenges in
Mm,
the year, which they have done, right? They have done, and they've missed them.
yeah,
Let's be honest, they have, and they've missed them. Um, and then that's it, right? So it's one of those. And the thing is that right now, for me, the only way you can solve this is by having more legs in midfield and play quicker, more fluid football, because the crossing is not working, and purely due to some of the things we've highlighted
yeah,
now. So for me, Arteta should, I think, maybe start looking at pulling out some of these senior players that maybe don't move the ball quicker as quickly as he would like to, and trusting some of the younger guys, and they're trusting Ainsley Maitland-Niles maybe in midfield, and saying, look, I've seen you do it a couple of times in Europa. Let me try in the league. Look, I know he tried it with Joe Willock, where Joe Willock was doing it semi-decently
mm,
in the Europa, and then he tried him in the league, and he didn't play well. And I don't know whether now he's
skip.
convinced enough. He's still probably, I don't know whether in his mind he's saying like, look, I tried this with this fella against Leeds, it didn't work. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? And also with Leeds and with Wolves, and it didn't work. Therefore,
yeah,
I'm now reverting back to my more trusted senior players. And for me, I think he just needs to have the courage maybe to keep trying these youngsters and dropping some of these more senior players that have let him down, and play these guys and give them a shot, because for me I think they're more vibrant, they're more athletic,
yeah,
they're more
definitely.
willing to try things. Yes, obviously some of the end product might not be as good. At the end of the day, they might miscontrol a ball where he should have actually been able to take it in stride and get the shot off, or they might lose the ball carelessly in midfield. But I
Mm,
think you should let them make those mistakes, let them learn from those mistakes, and I trust them that they will be able to recover from the mistakes. And I think playing them as well would give you more defensive solidity, because you are not placing as much strain on Rob Holding and exposing his lack of pace. You are not placing as much strain in our midfield by having Granit Xhaka there next to Ceballos and exposing their lack of pace as well. And I think that would breed more confidence to the forward players, that they can make more mistakes and try more things. I find knowing that if they do lose the ball, it's not a scramble to get back and get into position. They can trust that the players I'm leaving behind me have all got the pace to cover me, barring David Luiz or Rob Holding, between whoever out of the two that we play as the right-sided
yeah, yeah, yeah.
centre. And for me, I think that's what he needs to start going with. And I think a game like Burnley, for me, is a perfect opportunity for him to do that, to play in
Yeah,
Ainsley,
yeah.
and at the moment, obviously, maybe play in Ainsley and El Neni midfield pivot, maybe still persist with Lacazette in that false 9 or /10 position that he's playing there. Stick with Aubameyang up front, and then play. I would probably say play a Reece Nelson and a Bakayo Saka on the two wings, and then maybe bring in Willian later on, just to try something
Yeah,
try
we want to
something
see something new because
different.
it's
Yeah,
not working, from what we can
yeah,
see so far.
exactly. Yeah,
It's not working. But how big are these next few games? Yeah, I get you. You were saying
massive.
Burnley, we can try
Yeah,
something.
they're
But
massive.
the
They're
next
massive,
five
and
games
my
to New Year.
they're massive. And to be quite honest with you, I don't see us winning any of them. Especially knowing that I think, and my fear is that Arteta is going to persist with the lineup he went with against Tottenham Hotspur, and Burnley are going to do the same thing. They're going to stick back. They're going to sit back, look for set piece opportunities, look to break quickly on the counter,
Yeah.
and score off of those. And we know they've got two strikers in Barnes and Wood
Yeah.
who relish, and obviously Tarkovsky and me. I think Tarkovsky's injured actually. In the guys like me and for the other centre back, but in those guys, they've got players who are very good aerially. So they'll sit back, look to counter, look to get corners, free kicks high up the pitch, and put pressure on us in that fashion. And how we need to counter that is to make sure that we move the ball quickly, and score 2 or 3 goals to make sure that when they do get set pieces, we do have a, because I think we will concede a goal in that match, and it will be probably from a set piece. But we
Yeah.
need to make sure that we write that off and write off the possession game and say, look, we're going to try and score and use our quick interplay to score 2 or 3 goals, and then with that, then at least that gives us comfort that when we do concede the goals, we've got enough of a buffer.
Yeah, no, that's true. Try at least. We need to at least score a goal. We need to see that
Yeah.
firstly. And like my last few questions before we have to head out. I just want to find out. So with everything that's going on now, obviously it's a coach that selects the lineup. But now, is it? There could be a few options, and you know how like everything's going. It's a team. It's the
Mm.
coach. It's whatever the tactics. So is it Arteta? Is the job too big for him? Manager, coach? Is it the personnel? Maybe the tactics he's trying to employ are not suited to the personnel we have. Could it just be that this has been such a long season coming into, I mean, like such an intense back half the
Mm.
last season, coming into this, so much of football's coming on. I know they're professionals, there's no excuse, but is it a factor that they can't play at 100%? Just trying to open, the conversation just to see what is
Yeah, look, I think
really,
it's
we drawing at
the issue is a
straws.
mixture of all these factors, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've always said this, that our players are not good enough. And I said walking into the season that the best this guy can do is finish sixth, right? Fifth, maybe if we're pushing it,
Mm,
And I said that that's the best he can do. And I always say that our squad, for me, even with the party signing, I was like, for me, is seventh or eighth best in the league, right?
mm,
Obviously, Arteta is a new coach, so he's only been in the job for a year. Let's remember that. And most of that year also, about 3 to 4 months of it was under lockdown, COVID lockdown, right?
mm, mm.
So he's also still learning on a job, and it's a bit unfair to say the job is too big for him, because when we hired him, we knew that this would be a guy learning on the job. He was going to make plenty of mistakes, right? For me, my worry is that he doesn't seem to be learning from his mistakes quickly enough.
Mm.
He's not failing fast and moving on and trying new things, right? And some of the rhetoric maybe that he's been saying, and some of the things that he's saying in his press conferences have maybe kind of alluded and led people to believe that maybe he might be out of his depth, because he's saying things that are maybe making people scratch their heads, and he's also selecting players who are making us scratch our heads. He's not justifying why he's selecting them, and maybe we are wrong as a fan base to expect him to be honest, to say this is why I'm selecting Granit Xhaka. This is why I've dropped Mesut Ozil. Probably in the background he was pushed into a corner into not
Yeah.
include Mesut Ozil
And
into
he's the
in the squad.
face
But
that
obviously
united
he's
front.
come out
You
and
know.
put up that uh, Arsene Wenger front, which for me, I always said as well that this is the problem that I'm gonna have, is that this guy's gonna be not the right players are not gonna be signed for him. That he's gonna be forced to make these types of decisions. and some of them might be decisions that are really not in his control. But then he's going to be the fall guy for it, you know. And I think that's a convo I think I had with, I think it was actually Uno earlier on in the season, or just when we were doing our season wrap of the previous season. I was saying that for me, that my worry, and unfortunately, my worries are coming into fruition. And yeah, and my problem is that I honestly do not see the situation getting better looking in the upcoming fixtures in the next five. In the next five fixtures, I was even saying that at best, I probably see us getting a point out of the next. There's no team I can walk in confidently and say we comfortably beating. I'm saying that Burnley will probably walk away with a point, and chances are, if we carry on selecting the sides that we're selecting and playing the way we're playing, if Arteta does that, I see us losing probably the next 4 games, being Chelsea, Southampton, Everton, I think is the other one. Sorry, I'm not going to count Man City. So the next 3 games, yeah. And Brighton probably. And, and Brighton. And I'll add Brighton to that. The next, the next 4 games, and we all know. And I'm adding Brighton because we all know the recent record we have against Brighton.
And they're actually playing better than when we played them and lost.
And they seem to be a side that even when we were playing well, always had the beating of us. I think they've beaten us in the last 3 games in a row, if I stand to be corrected. But yeah,
I know they pulled a double on us last season.
Us home and away. They beat us home and away last season, and they beat us in the run-in during Emery's era, in the run-in the season before. Yes. So, and we drew with them in the game prior to that. So it's one of those sides where we haven't beaten in a long time.
On our side there.
Exactly, so it's one of those. So yeah, I'm really fearful for Arteta because I think he's going to turn out to be a good manager in the long term. It might have been maybe a bit too early to throw him in, knowing the demands of the Arsenal fans, and that they're going to want a guy who's going to hit the ground running. And because I honestly think that even if you had to throw in an Allegri right now, I don't think there's going to be much of a difference. Yes, maybe we would finish. Look, the difference between Allegri and like an Arteta would probably be for me finishing 5th and finishing 7th. In the long term, Allegri walking in, or let's say, who else are the other managers? A Pochettino, let's say, God forbid, a Pochettino walking in. But those, or a Maurizio Sarri walking in right now, I don't, besides the new manager bounce we would get, I don't see them long term having a more material impact if we are unable to fundamentally overhaul our squad and fundamentally change the structures behind the scenes.
You felt bad, like Arteta in the role, that he's playing.
Yeah, so I think it's just too much responsibilities, man, for the guy. The squad is, as I'm saying, for me, the squad is not a good squad. There's a lot of issues with the squad. There's a lot of issues with subpar players that we're struggling to move on. And I don't see that fundamentally changing with the people we've got in the background right now. So the structures around you, for me, you need to change. You can always bring in a new manager, but with a new manager, then you need to change the structure around in the background club. Who are the guys giving these people? Who decided to give Willian a 3-year contract? Is that person leaving? Who's deciding to give these guys the type of wages they're getting and the length of contracts that they're getting? Who's in charge of recruitment? Who's looking at the youth setup? What support structures do we have around the manager to make sure that we give him the correct platform for him to be able to execute his duties? You can't give a manager who's been in management for a year Wenger-like responsibilities. You can't. For me, you're setting up that person for failure. And for me, I think the promotion that they gave Arteta and the roles and responsibilities that they've given him are too much for a manager of his experience. They should be just allowing him to focus on his coaching,
It's the team right.
and it's the setup of the team exactly, you know, and you should make sure that you've got the right people around him to help support him, and then slowly relinquish those powers and give him more and more roles and responsibilities as a manager, you know. And I think that I think right now, as you said, I mean, our structure is pretty much Vinay, it's Vinay, it's Edu, it's Arteta, you know.
Yeah.
And for me, those three are not experienced enough to to run the club's affairs sufficiently. So if you throw in an experienced manager there, you're not really tackling the problem of what's happening behind the scenes. That manager's still going to have the issues we're having with regards to
Like,
recruitment and contracts.
before my sound like went a bit weird, I was saying it makes sense what you're saying because there's three managers that we blame them, but the personnel, there's like three or four changes, you know, or like to players, like they pretty much the same, kind of the same team that Wenger left years
Yeah,
back, you know, a few variations here and there, but the core personnel is still there, and we're still complaining about the same things over this time, you know. I
mm,
think now it's sad we're not scoring and stuff, but it was we losing, not defensively sound, you know, the same things that over the years where we get a good spell, but we never consistently hold it, you know. And now during this time,
yeah,
inexperienced manager, also a team lacking a bit of confidence, you know. We're in uncharted territory right now as Arsenal fans,
yeah.
you know. So it's a difficult time, but that's why I was asking how big are these next few games. But by the looks of
They're
it,
massive. Yeah,
Arteta's more a tournament coach right now because he looks better in like tournaments, you know, Europa, FA Cup. Even before we got knocked out, he looked pretty decent in tournaments. You think the league? Because even last season, towards the back end of the league, he wasn't doing good at all. I think we won
yeah.
against Liverpool, I suppose, but we lost a few games that we shouldn't really have
Mm.
lost. So is Premier League a lot tougher, and maybe the Europas and Cups are helping him because that leads to Thursday's game, you know, where he can gain more experience faster. I'm not too sure. From what I see, just seems like Premier League seems a bit tough, you know?
Yeah, look, I can't really put my finger on why are we struggling that much at Premier League. Maybe it's because with competitions, teams have to be a bit more open, and therefore they're a bit more. They play more on the front foot, and and therefore that gives us more space to be able to play and expose them and create chances and score goals. That probably could be it. Um, but obviously, as I was saying, with a Premier League game at home, we have to be the protagonist. The team can just sit back and say, I'm happy to walk away with a point here, and if I nick a goal on the counter, I'm more than happy to do that. And obviously with that in mind, it allows teams to be able to be a bit more pragmatic, you know, because they don't have to win the match, you know. So yeah, maybe that is the issue, but I honestly think some of the personnel we've got and that we play in our league side are not suited to playing in the English Premier League, to be quite honest. I think that the
Name any.
quality is not there. Huh?
You want to name any?
I think Xhaka is not suited for the Premier League. He's not I don't think he's an atrocious player. You know, I think he's got his certain qualities, but for me, those qualities would be suited to a La Liga. You know, not La Liga, sorry, or actually even a La Liga, but they'll be more suited for me to like an Italian, a Serie A type setup. You know, um, but and his lack of mobility and his lack of thrust, I think really doesn't stand him in good stead in the Premier League. You know, I look at players like Kolasinac, I reckon they're also just positionally not good enough. In terms of their interplay, their passing, they're not suited to, and they're not the caliber, the quality of player that you need in the Premier League. I look at guys like Cedric, and it's a bit unfair on Cedric because I think he's a decent right back, but he's not fundamentally any better than a Hector Bellerin, who we all know what we feel about him. And I don't think he's better than an Ainsley Maitland now. So you're bringing him in, but you're not sufficiently improving on an area where we all know we've got a weakness, in there. And especially defensively. Going forward, he's good defensively. If you're going to have him, then you need to make sure that the centre back, the right-sided centre back on his side is an athlete. And at the moment, we don't have that. We've got an athlete on the left side in Gabriel. But now if you are asking David Luiz or Rob Holding to pick up a right winger that's been vacated, sorry, a left winger that's been vacated by Hector Bellerin or Cedric Suarez, you're asking for trouble. Those guys are not comfortable with dealing with pace, not comfortable dealing with players that are running at them, and you're setting yourself up for failure. So I mean, those are a few. I can name a whole host of these guys.
These are your
I can name. I don't think
using.
For me, like Holding his lack of pace, and you can see with him when he's comfortable that he's playing a guy that's not going to out sprint him, turn him and beat him for pace. He looks like a very solid player. He can deal with crosses well. He makes the grudges. But as soon as you put a Sadio Mane, you put a guy like Sterling on his side, you put a guy like Son, he's fighting to death, and his first instinct is to back away, whereas sometimes it would have been a 50-50 ball, he would have gotten first. He's like, what, I don't want to risk not winning this 50-50 because I know if he gets in behind, there's no ways I'm recovering. So, for me, guys like that, and especially because we don't have the personnel around them to counter, we're not playing the personnel around them to counter their lack of pace. We're not suited to our squad and are not of sufficient quality for us. So it's, for me, players like that, we need to start looking. And then, like David Luiz, obviously David Luiz will probably be gone in the summer, but guys like that, for me, are, as much as he's very good passer from at the back and he's commanding and stuff, going forward, we should be looking at replacing players like that. And that's just to name a few, But yeah, those are the ones that come to mind. But as you say, even you look at your El Nenis, and they're not just quality-wise. Got a great engine, but in terms of his ability, he's a limited player. And those are the guys you should be looking at.
Quality out the field as well, 1 or 2, and I think that's setting us apart from the rest. All playing as a team or creativity. So right now, super rebuilding phase. So it's really a tough time, man. Like, damn, I don't know. This December, I don't know what to expect, to be fair, so have to take it as it comes. But Nqobile, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate for you jumping on for the match day review against Tottenham, 2-0-ish. But yeah, we'll have to take it and move on. Nothing we can do. On to the next one, Europa, and then Sunday is Burnley. Thanks, Nqobile. It's Gunakast SA. It's me, Kish. We are.